Hello and welcome, and today is the end of the 28th day of May 2018. Make that the 26th day. My screen size is too small, and the 6 and the 8 do look alike, and I thought, no, it's not that late of the month for 28, but it's crypto day. Markets never close Saturday night, and daily time frame for Bitcoin, like everything all the other videos, everything's always within your own risk, own reward for all decisions investing in which you make. So the 3 candle down, and then we can see over the last few days it's just been grinding down lower. It's starting a new session as it's starting the 27th day on here, as it's past midnight on the European time frames in all parts of that side of the world. I'm coming from Canada, and it looks as if this 6,000 mark is going to be tested. I wish I could say I was more confident that this level would be an area where it could find support and we could just end up bouncing from there, but usually you're going to get, if anything, maybe you're just going to stay around there for a bit and then fall lower. Maybe it'll just find little to no support and it's going to be ugly to the downside. These are the things that all look realistic within this time frame. If you're looking to profit from volatility, well, that's what the name of the game is, and the profit potentials you can have for playing such a move can be magnificent. And of course, the amount one can lose by having bad decisions, bad timing in this game, well, that's all part of the game. Yes, each code has market memory. Memory is important in spots of how price is. Whereas, if you are playing a game like, say, roulette, it doesn't care what the last few numbers are. It's got the exact same chances of whatever occurring. That's not the case in markets. Whenever you start a new poker hand, you reshuffle the cards. Same thing. Blackjack. Well, if you're not shuffling cards, then price memory becomes a factor. So your portfolio, it doesn't care that you're making all-time highs or lows based on how you're playing the market. But anyway, let's now move on, closer looking at these charts again further. So it's not supporting this area, which I thought was the must hold at around 7,600, and it's resisting it more than anything on the 400-minute time frame. When we look at this via the 18, since the price action came down in here, retesting, making this market a little neutral, you resist the high, big move lower. And then again, you resist it, another move lower. Typical, right here. I'm seeing a lot more of these within the markets. Don't be surprised to see them happen on both sides of the fence, meaning up and down. So whenever you see a breakdown situation occurring, like is the case now, that's always a possibility, especially nowadays within this game. Game is always crypto trading, mainly that of Bitcoin and any of the major coins that are the major volume traded coins. So in this situation here, this is a case of market correcting through time while it grinded lower. Usually it does the opposite. It would correct through time while grinding in the opposite direction. And now that it has just left this 18 average, it is technically broke down below the support. This is where you can say to yourself, man, this can get pretty ugly as we are moving forward. Within the 3-hour time frame, what do we see in here? We see this range in place. This range was the last correctionary move. I mean, this was a big fall from this point in here. And now the correctionary move is done. To put this into perspective, if you were to ask me in here, Other than for the situation that I do see there's an okay chance of 3,000 coming. Do I like the short position better here or now? Well, it's cheaper now, but you have better chances of having immediate profits. There's going to be a lot of traders that will use this level here as their stops. The ones that have been doing it during this entire run never had it violated. There will be some that had stops higher. And as this price is going down, some of them will still reduce their stops to this point. Some people that had stops in here will reduce it again. So a lot of times when these big moves happen up or down, that's one reason why you can get violent moves in the opposite direction. So if hypothetically speaking, you had a fast move down to 3,000, where it's, say, 24 hours from now, this thing breaks down big, and we're like, and it doesn't even support 6. It's that like 4,500. Maybe it just diddly rounds for a day, and then the next day it's at 3,000. The next hour it's at 3,500, and the next day it's at 4,500. That's the kind of normal market behaviors when things get wild. And when you leave ranges like this for its time frame, it's probably going to get wild. So when I talk about big moves down, there's really two ways of it getting nasty as I look at it. One is just the big moves, like a big massive green or red candle. And two is just a constant decline. And this is a perfect image of what a constant decline would kind of look like, where you have some decent sized reds, or whatever, in this case, the downside would be red. And there's really not much in correction in its opposite direction. And there are several periods to bring it down, what's overall a large sum. So for a big fast move, it doesn't have to be like world record timing in periods like 1, 2, or 3. It's basically going to look either like this or one of those big, I can show you an example right now. And going back to last year when this was falling in September, less than a year ago, from 41 down to 3,000, a very decent sized loss. It did so in just a couple periods. So that's the two ways I talk about a fast move, a really fast move. So then seeing this 3 hour again further, really just breaking down below here. Let's take a look at this on a single hour time frame. And this is where it gets very, very interesting. Because we have this rally at 3 a.m. And 3 a.m. I must be lonely. But the rally market went much higher. And I think 3 a.m. is a song by Matchbox 20. That's why I said it like that. 3 a.m. I must be lonely. It's a good song. But several hours, up until like 1,700 hours. So that's a difference of like 14, little over a half a day. I mean, the movements are just so nothing. Especially when you look at everything. At least in this case, this correctionary grinding higher. And the move in here had some volatility within its sideways move that was in between, well, the wild moves that preceded it and, well, from before and after it. But when it falls like this, what do we see in here? Like, we have this little failed breakout above, and I've seen this so many times looking at Forex, stock markets, and the gold markets, silver markets, all this kind of stuff. It's doing it again. So anytime you get a decent breakout or breakdown, this is always a possibility in pretty much every crypto market, more than ever. Because I remember saying before, stuff like this doesn't seem to happen in the crypto market. Well, that was back in 2017. But in 2018, I'm seeing a lot more of those kinds of moves. But this really got me on the 15-minute time frame, because when I looked at this, I thought this was just unique to Bitfinex, but it's not. And it looked a lot bigger when you looked at it from the perspective of before the fall. I can hear you like looking at this. It's like, what the heck just happened here? That almost looks like one of the cases if someone brought it up for like 75.40. up to 76.06. That just looks like somebody individually with a huge pocketbook moved that market on one exchange, at least for a moment's time, almost 1%. That could easily happen with some high paycheck books with these exchanges. But anyway, I thought that's what it was. But then I looked at another exchange of such. So I looked at the Coinbase one. And the Coinbase one was even a little more aggressive towards such. To the point where if you look at it at the 1 minute time frame, this is what the move translated into. I find it very interesting that before all of this was being set up, everything of nothing was happening. 5:08, 5:09 p.m., not much, nothing to see here, folks. And then you get the one fake rally higher, and then boom, down she goes. It's almost as if, you know, there's two big players in the game. There's one person who's got, say, 5 million, 6 million, 10 million, and you know they're going to go long. But the other players who got pocketbooks greater than that of larger numbers are looking to sell it on the other side. And they're like, well, if he's going to buy, let's just first wait for him to buy, and then we're just going to sell it down. No, I don't think it's that way. But I've seen these interesting movements happen quite frequently. So now we look at this just on the 1 minute time frame in itself. Since the decline happened today, correctionary moves, and this is the shortest term I'm going to give you, then I'm going to finish it off with the spreadsheet look at Bitcoin. Sideways, sideways, extended sideways with some up and down choppy action. And so far it's correcting this in an uptrend short term, but it still has to get up here. And getting here, ooh, is this going to be a level of resistance? Because it wouldn't surprise me if it was. But even if it gets there, it could get up to Fibonacci points, like from here to here. We're looking at like, oh, Fibonacci 31. Even a decent rally over the next half day could come up to 74 and change, and it's just going to get rejected, or at least a good chance that something like that would happen when we are in the bear market territories that we are. Because as I've been stating within this range in here, that yes, it's neutral from 6,500-ish or so to about 11,000. But I don't like the chances it holds this. It very easily can. Technically speaking, until it breaks below it and has a good chunk price point below such, or it holds and stays below that area for a good amount of time, it's still in this, you could say, sideways range. Because you had this tremendous rally, then you had the down move. Since the down move, it's been sideways. So obviously, as long as it stays within these two lines, it's going to remain sideways, regardless if it's at the lower or upper end of it. Because I've seen so many ranges find support 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So just because it's more likely you come to an area that you take it out doesn't mean that you will, and it most certainly doesn't mean that if you successfully support an area and then you start to retrace up a little bit anywhere up to the previous high, that it's going to take that level out as well, just because you supported it. But it is likely to have one of those fast moves that I talk about to 3 on the break of this level of support. Okay. So one other way of looking at this is running averages, and I'm going to finish this off by showing a running average from this high. The high is near 20,000. The high, or since the low, of about 6,000, and since the lowest point in here as well. I can't do it on TradingView. I wish I knew how. Either a running average or a VWAP. VWAP would consider volume along the way, but either way they give the same similar looking average. So let's take a look at it via the spreadsheet. And so from the high, we got this black little line in here, which never did ever technically get hit as resistance. It's almost like it's a fire, if you will, and you're near the fire pit or barbecue type thing at a campsite or whatever, and you want to get close to it, roast marshmallows, whatnot, but you can only get so close before the flames just get too hot, meaning it comes close to this resistance line on both of those occasions and never quite take it out. It's declining. Now what's going to happen on a price decrease from here is that this is going to start to have its rate of descent a little worse than what it is here. Not like it was here. It won't have this rate of descent, but it will start to decline at a larger rate. The other two lines are from the key lows. So starting with the first one and the purple one, or the purple line in here, support, resistance, and then after it had, this was a very bearish setup, but it didn't complete any further, and so far it hasn't failed its bearish setup within this move yet. It supports this area, but it is unable to break the resistance level that it establishes from the supported area. Thus, it resists the area in here. And this level, well, what I'll do is I'm going to zoom in on just the recent action so you can see the candles or the lines a little bit bigger. So within this current action here, what I see again is how we have the defining moment in this price range here. And this breakdown that has just occurred, and it doing what it's been doing the last 4 days, tells me that these are going to start to decline at a bigger rate of descent as well, and that the rallies are thus failing. That's the indicator way of looking at it throughout such. It's an area that any rallies you'd be coming up to, places you'd be looking for resistance. So you get situations like this where you get high probabilities that you're probably going to go to 3, but that's only it. Higher probabilities. You also realize that if you're trying to base your play on the information now, that the prices to bet against Bitcoin are nowhere near as good as it was before. And you can most certainly, but definitely not guaranteed, get a rally up to maybe this point in here, thus giving better opportunities that could easily roll over to the downside. But that's, and then you could even again get these, you got to watch them even more and more. The typical failed breakouts. That's what I'm going to be looking at on the situation of a breakdown below 6,000. For anything around that 5,000 area, I would consider to be such. I'm going to be seeing the markets fall if I happen to be, as long as I'm not doing something else or sleeping. If I see that it's down to, say, 58, 57, 55, I'm going to expect the moves to be fast, and I'm going to be thinking, well, here we are. First, it's a test of, will this be a failed breakdown or not? That'll be things I'll be thinking about in my head anyway. But yeah, this is how I see it from the averages. It's showing more weakness within the area where, like even here at 7,000, I was conservatively thinking like 73, 74, and it's showing me it's probably headed for lower prices. Now just a quick look at an altcoin. I've talked about this one a little bit before, but this pattern, I just find it really cool. That's it. It's really, really cool what it's been doing. When you see the last 6 days or so, this is like what I'd call hugging the 18 average, which means it's not extending from it, and it's supporting it well, decently well. What's up with this when you look at this on an hourly time frame? Well, you have your move and you're grinding your way up with a bit of volatility, but it's most of the time making higher lows. It has spent several length of duration of time finding support. It could technically still have a price correction down to the 25 handle and thus make a higher low from the one down in here. But it's got an interesting daily time frame chart. I talked about this earlier in an earlier video today. This is on Binance. This is code CMT, not country music television, but Cyber Miles. And this is against the dollar. Something I'm going to keep an eye on because I've started investing in it. But yeah, I like its sideways action and just a small wager. Less than 1% of my portfolio I put on it. Ethereum is in a very interesting situation. We can see it against Bitcoin. Well, the uptrend was consistent. It was basically the polar opposite of it going down. Then the market spent some time in the 18 average, something it never did amongst its uptrend. And after it did that for about 3 or 2 days, well, really 2 days, it broke below and has now resisted the 18 average of highs onto day number 4 of doing such. So I like to shorten out the time frame. I really only want to see from the last little bit here. So we'll take a look at the single hour time frame and see what I can come up with. And it's one of those situations where it's developed this level of resistance at about this level here, and it's in a very cautious situation if it's not able to hold these higher lows that it's been making for the last few days. So if you're in the waiting game, you're waiting to see if it can make a decent move above this area, just get above it, come back as support. Or, of course, you have uptrend lines that would connect these 3 key lows. If you see those break into place, then when you look at that in coordination with the daily time frame, that's showing the signs that this is starting to possibly roll over. Let's quickly look at this against the US dollar with Ethereum. And volatility is most certainly the name of the game here. For we've seen a high of about 1400 fall to 360. Get back up to 842 and down to 591. However, as far as the market's reverting its trend, it's already broken that major level of support. And it has basically just been a few days going sideways within such. On the short-term time frame, it's not getting beaten down quite as bad as Bitcoin, which might be a reason why the short term it's developing an okay pattern against Bitcoin, but it's most certainly not in the greatest of situations when you look at it from the 15-minute time frame. Now, Litecoin against Bitcoin on the 400-minute time frame, really just hanging in at the lower end of this area, which has just been interestingly going sideways. Well, from the rally, I really wanted to see it hold and stay above really around 120, 130, which means it could have a leg lower and still technically do so, but it's also doing better than expected for such. But it is really getting more and more in the line of whatever Bitcoin's doing, it is doing. So against the US dollar, we're getting a lot of the similar things. 400-minute time frame on how this is leaving the 18. That's a dangerous situation. You have the leg lower from the 240 timestamp on May 22nd. Have a decent leg lower going from 132 down to 115. You resist the 18, come back down. The only difference is this hasn't taken out its previous lows. It's still at the bottom end of this recent support range. But it most certainly is on the 1 hour time frame not looking good in itself for the short run. All right, another long video completed. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this video and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.